Let's go now to KCRA 3's David Bieniek. David, first of all, give us your exact location and what you're seeing.
So, Edie, we are exactly at that spot that you were just talking about, right. Highway 121 on the east side of Napa, where there is this crack that extends all the way across Highway 121. Now, as you say, traffic is moving in both directions, but that is because they have shut down the eastbound lanes and moved all of the traffic over to share the westbound lane. It is not only a crack, but it is a depression in the road, about the size of a hot tub, I would say, and it goes down maybe 3 or 4 inches, again, on the eastbound lane of Highway 121, just east of Napa. Now, as we were heading here, we also saw some other examples of not necessarily damage, but precautions underway because of this earthquake on the bridge over the Napa River, just south of the city of Napa, Highway 121, Highway 12 once again. We saw Caltrans bridge inspectors just getting out of their vehicles and starting to inspect that major bridge, that high bridge that goes over the Napa River south of the city. And on Highway 12 between Napa and Fairfield, we took a look at that new retaining wall. They've been working for several years to try to improve Highway 12, add lanes there. That new high retaining wall, that seems to be perfectly fine. We didn't see any cracks there. We didn't see anybody out looking at it. No signs of damage there. But they're just starting to evaluate some of the damage to the roadways here in the Napa Valley area.
David, we should point out that the CHP is reporting that all of the highway overpasses and bridges are structurally safe. So the CHP putting out a bit of reassurance there. In terms of what we're seeing on Highway 121, the video that you're looking at right now was shot a little while ago. You can see crews out there with a jackhammer and working on the roadway itself. David, do you have a sense of timing as to how long it's going to take them to make this repair?
Well, the crews aren't actively doing anything right now. They do have a bucket loader here and some dump trucks standing by. So they're probably still trying to get the material necessary to fill this crack here. But they are standing by right now. Their big job is to try to keep traffic flowing through this area. This is probably the major connection between Napa and Sonoma, so it's an important highway.
Yeah, and again, with the Sonoma Grand Prix happening today, we know that it's going to be important for all the folks who are trying to get up there for the race.
Exactly. There goes a tour bus right by, a California wine tour bus loaded with people visiting the area, getting an unexpected look at what Napa can be as well.
David, it's amazing for us. We've been watching these pictures all morning long, how quickly they've been able to fill this crack. How does traffic look in the area? We're not seeing a very broad view of that highway. We're just seeing a very close-up look of traffic just trickling by. Is there much of a backup in the area? We know that people are trying to get there to that race today.
Here at this specific location, there is slowing, but there's not really much of a backup on Highway 121-12.
You know, it's interesting, David, you talked about the tour bus, and when Napa city officials and some county officials as well held a news conference earlier, the question was asked, what if somebody has a reservation or they're planning to go up? I mean, you know, it is still August. What if they're planning to go up as tourists? And they just basically said, come on up. Everything is, aside from downtown and any area that's not, that's not taped off is fine. So they were actually encouraging tourism to continue.
Yeah, and there goes a limousine past us right now, heading over toward the Carneros area. So, yeah, I would think that there is most of the Napa Valley is going to be open today. I think there would be the emergency officials would ask you not to come and be a tourist today to see the quake damage because you're only going to get in the way.
Yeah, absolutely, a really good point. Not to mention, you know, some of those areas in downtown Napa, they are taped off for a reason. You look at the extent of the damage and you realize that if there were a serious aftershock, there would certainly be more debris flying off of those buildings, and you don't want to be anywhere near that.
Exactly. As we've been hearing throughout this morning, about a 5% chance of a quake that's even stronger than the initial quake after the first one.
Yeah, David, we've been looking at some of the pictures that you've been sending in there. It seems really bad to us, but you had also mentioned some of the structures and the walls that are in place that are intact. It's almost as surprising that there wasn't more damage that we could see visually done to the roadways. I mean, that crack seems really significant to us, but it looks like they were able to repair it quickly, and they are letting cars travel over it.
Exactly. Well, remember there was a significant earthquake in this area in 2000. So a lot of the infrastructure would have been tested back then. It wasn't quite as strong as this one, but what held up in 2000 had a pretty good chance of holding up today.
Yeah, and then they have gone in and reinforced some of the masonry especially. That's in general, the most vulnerable part of these buildings. We see it with the chimneys that have collapsed. We've seen fireplace after fireplace. In fact, the child who was critically injured, that's exactly what happened. There was bricks from the fireplace had fallen on that child. David, thank you for the live update. So where are you heading next, just so we have a sense of what we can expect from you for live reports?
We're going to head up to the west side of Napa into a neighborhood where we hear that there is another cracked roadway in a city street, and we'll see what that looks like.
Is that White Cliff Circle?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, we've seen aerial coverage of that. Not only the street and sidewalk buckled, but a water main break as well. What was interesting in that area is that the homes around White Cliff Circle all looked like they were in perfectly good shape. So you could see clearly they got an enormous jolt in that area. But the building codes, of course, these homes are designed to withstand pretty substantial earthquakes.
It looks like we may be getting a picture of that now. Is that what we're seeing there with the water from a water main break? Is this White Cliff Circle? Yes, it is. White Cliff Circle. We're getting a little bit of a view of that right now. Our picture coming in and out. But you can see there the residential neighborhood, quite different from what we're seeing along Highway 121. So more people in the immediate area impacted by that, not just traffic going through. We'll check back in with KCRA 3's David Bieniek later on as he makes his way to that neighborhood to see how much of an impact if people are coming out to look at the damage, if that neighborhood has been significantly impacted. David Bieniek, thank you so much.